Time once again for the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast. Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, Soren Petro with you, talking Chiefs football, reviewing what we thought about last season. How far off were we? Our offensive and defensive player of the year. Who would be the surprise as a positive for the Kansas City Chiefs? Who would be the disappointment? Did we get the record right? How about their playoff finish? Did anybody get that right? Plus bold and daring predictions for the offense and defense. We review it right now here on the Red, Gold, and Bold.
You are listening to the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Chiefs on planet Earth, breaking down the Chiefs like no one else can. Red, Gold, and Bold is hosted by Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro. Jeff Chadiha is a senior columnist and on-air personality for the NFL Network and NFL.com. Sam McDowell is a columnist for the Kansas City Star. Soren Petro is the afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. The Red, Gold, and Bold podcast is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are the hosts of the Best Chiefs podcast, Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro.
All right, thank you very much, Curtis. We do appreciate it. Last Friday, we were talking about how we did on our NFL picks. Guys, I'm not real optimistic on how we did on the Chiefs picks. I don't think we quite nailed it going into the year. So let's just dive right in. We'll do our awards first. Okay. Offensive player of the year, boys.
Well, I think first of all, I think that Jeff should have the best record here.
I should.
Jeff should have the best picks. I mean, this was
that's different. It's totally different than the best record.
This was his year to shine. Yeah.
It's a Jeff. It was a Jeff kind of season. I think so. I think that's a great point. Let's see if it worked out that way. Offensive player of the year, Jeff. And of course, this was no Patrick Mahomes, right? That was the hook to this. Do you remember who you went with?
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah. Xavier Worthy. I still regret it. I think I regretted it after week 1.
Who would we even give this award to?
It's a good question.
Creed Humphrey.
Kingsley
Suamataia had a great year, but I think Creed Humphrey.
And so you had Xavier Worthy. Sam, you and I thought we were pretty, hot crap here. We're going to take Rashee Rice to get it done. Even after the suspension, he wasn't the answer either. Like we look at how we bombed the offensive player of the year. We picked worthy candidates. Xavier Worthy, no pun intended. Being a former first-round pick, Rashee Rice, former second-round pick at the wide receiver position, expecting some kind of bounce back offensively or maybe growth offensively. We did not see it. I mean, I'm not even blaming us.
This is on the Chiefs. This is on the Chiefs. Yeah. Give us an option.
Yeah. I think we all thought it was going to be the post-Travis Kelce boom for some guys, and that never really materialized.
No, it didn't. All right, defensive player of the year. Jeff, Sam, you boys went with Trent McDuffie. I went with Chris Jones. I had a hard time figuring out who we'd give the nod to, but I have to reluctantly. I could give you some kind of talk show host BS as to why I think Chris Jones should be the guy. Trent McDuffie's the guy even missing games at the end, right?
Yeah. I think Trent McDuffie's the right answer.
I mean, should he have been the right answer? Or should Chris Jones have been better? Should somebody else have stepped up? He's pretty good. I mean, I think that was the safe pick. I think it was the right pick, and I think he didn't get $124 million because he wasn't the Chiefs' best defensive player, right?
I give him two reasons I give him credit for it. Obviously, this is much farther down the road, but given what the Rams gave up to get him, he had tremendous value. But also, the pass rush was so anemic at times that he was asked. All those guys were asked to do a lot more in coverage than they actually should have been asked to do, and so that doesn't show up on the scorecard. But to me, it meant he was a lot more. He played a bigger factor in this team's defense overall than Chris Jones did.
Like I said, I could try to give you some mumbo jumbo about Chris Jones taking up a lot. No, it's Trent McDuffie, and I think that's one of the reasons why this team, the offense was clearly the bigger problem. The Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy not coming through. That's by far the bigger problem. And maybe it's all scheme, maybe it's their talents. Put it wherever you want, but that was the bigger problem for this team. But just the fact that Trent McDuffie did stand out so glaringly, I think speaks to the problem on defense. Like nobody else stepped up to battle him. I mean, the second best guy would probably be Jalen Watson.
Yeah, Brian Cook too. I think those two guys, their secondary had a great year for the reason that Jeff mentioned. I mean, they were asked to cover for an inordinate amount of time. I think they allowed. I think the quarterbacks, as far as their time to throw, was like 7th most in the league. I can't remember that number exactly, but Jeff's point is right. Regardless, like they were asked to do a lot this year, and they still held up.
Yeah. So I reluctantly, but clearly give you guys the nod. You got that one right. Then it starts to get a little fun. Surprise is where we talk about the positives. Okay, Jeff, your surprise was Robert Tonyan.
He surprised me. I mean,
I think I was getting my bold and daring warm up going. I was trying to get in the groove.
He had a yard. He had a yard.
Yeah,
singular.
Did he play like more than 10 snaps all year?
Talk about buying into the
the
training camp hype.
Yeah,
I mean, you swallowed the hook on that one.
133 offensive snaps, 1 yard. What is that? What is that yards per route run?
Yeah.
Not good. I can tell you that one. But all right, let's keep going. Sam, you have much to ha about, but your surprise was Ashton Gelati. What did he have? A sack?
I think he had one and a half.
Half? Okay.
Or two. First of all, it's not the right answer. It's not the Robert Tonyan answer either, is it? Gelati had 8 quarterback hits. He did have the interception too. I forgot about that. 1.5 sacks, 38 tackles. I mean, he played a decent amount. He didn't have a bad year, but not a standout surprise.
For a late third, right? For a late third round pick in his rookie year.
He was that early third that they got from the Titans.
He was the early third.
Okay. They traded their late third for Noel Williams.
Yeah, that's right. He Omar Norman Lott came just a few picks in front of him. So I passing grade there for you. Kingsley Suamataia was my pick.
There you go.
I get back my terrible picks before, but I get one on the board with Kingsley Suamataia.
The absolute right answer. I mean, you can't find a better answer than Kingsley.
Yeah,
I think Brian Cook would probably be number 2.
Yeah,
on the list.
I like Brian Cook. I'm trying to think. Was there, Tyquan Thornton maybe deserves some honorable mention for what he was able to get done.
I don't know. Maybe if you just include the first month, but I mean,
Jalen Watson could be in there.
Jalen Watson could be in the mix.
Step up.
Yeah, he did step up. So there are a few guys, but Kingsley Suamataia nailing down that guard position, and it looked rough. Now we did this where he had started to look a little bit better. This was not preseason or before the preseason, I should say. But so he had kind of started to build up there, but man, he did come on. Credit the player. I will be very honest and say that I didn't think it would be as good as it was. Right, like he exceeded even my expectations for how it was, because the first preseason game, it literally was like
bad. Yeah.
What are they doing here?
Yeah, and Seattle was bad. I think you picked him because you thought he'd get the best coaching, and that's why he ended up being your pick. He had the best position coaching.
Yeah, is that? Yeah, that's sure. I'll go with that one. That's fine. I'll live with that one. All right. How about biggest disappointment? Jeff, Travis Kelce.
Look, I'll defend this as saying he was trending down in the wrong direction at the end of the previous season. So
sure.
that was the thinking there. It wasn't as wild of a swing as Robert Tonyan. Maybe I combined Robert Tonyan with him, thinking that it would, balance out. But I thought he was not going to do what he did last year. He certainly surprised me. He came in great shape. He played extremely well for a guy his age. I just thought he was going to fall off a cliff. And so I was convinced that that's what, I got some Pete Incaviglia type swings in me in this.
What a great reference. What a great reference. We'll give you credit.
Strikeouts.
We'll give you credit just for the reference.
That's right.
Pete Incaviglia, Joey Gallo, Rob Deere.
That's right.
Give you a number of those guys that are there. All right. So then we move to you, Sam. Tyquan Thornton was your biggest disappointment, and he was certainly a disappointment after the first.
Yeah, I am gonna at least try and twist this.
Okay.
So because I looked this up when they re-signed him a couple weeks back, in his final 12 games, in the Chiefs' final 12 games, he had 6 catches. 6 catches in 12 games. So half a catch per game. I think, but the disappointment was not his performance. It was his lack of use. And I did recently see some metrics on ESPN that he did not get open at a high rate. I'm sure that played into the fact that he didn't get more snaps. But I think we all recall going into the year that people had kind of thought that Tyquan Thornton would save this offense in a way. I guess I should say an element of the offense, which was their deep passing game. He did that for the first 4 weeks. Like, that's what makes this prediction incorrect, because he did that, and then they stopped using him. And 6 catches over the final 12 games, and that's a long time. 12 games, and had 6 catches, and all of a sudden he was just nowhere. And that's the reason I knew these stats, is because I looked it up and said, I'm surprised when the Chiefs signed him that they were the team he wanted, just because of the lack of use. And man, I was stunned by just how little he was used over the last. That's 2/3 of the season.
Well, were you surprised that he wanted the Chiefs, or was it that nobody else wanted him?
Well, I think when you give a guy 2 years, the hope would be that you're bidding against somebody, like somebody else wants his services. But yeah, I thought if he had options, and maybe he didn't have other, options that were even in the same neighborhood. But I think if he had options, I kind of thought, wouldn't he like a bigger role, considering when he was put in, even if he wasn't getting open, he was making contested catches. He was getting downfield. I think he could track the ball pretty well. But I mean, I'll just repeat it one more time because the number is so glaring. 6 catches for 166 yards and no touchdowns in the last 12 games.
Yeah, I think the thing that makes it tough to sell him on being the biggest disappointment.
Yeah, because he's not that. I mean, look, he had more total than I thought. He came up with their best 2 catches of the year.
Well, and he was the one guy who got chunk yardage.
Yeah,
like so that was the quantity wasn't there, but when he did make a play, it was usually for big yards. So that was part of it. I went with Christian Fulton. I mean, he was what Jeff said he would be, hurt all the time, right? Like who is the answer? Because I don't think Christian Fulton, who actually played kind of decent football at the very end when they finally got him out on the field, but I mean, he just kind of was what he's been, like, hurt a lot.
Yeah.
I think the answers are the 3 of our Offensive Player of the Year picks. I think it's Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's where you have to go. The Chiefs did not have a wide receiver get 600 yards this year. I mean, it's not quite what year was it? Was the 2012 season where they didn't have one score a touchdown? It's not quite that level, but it's not far behind. I mean, did not have a wide receiver, because Patrick Mahomes was thrown to him here. It's not Tyler Palko and Tyler Thigpen. It's Patrick Mahomes thrown to you, and you did not have a wide receiver have 600 yards for the season.
Yeah, that is a rough go to say.
I think Jaden Hicks could fit in. I mean, I think a lot of us thought that he would play more. He did not, so I think he could fit in.
Yeah,
Chris Jones could fit in to that conversation.
Yeah. Pacheco for sure.
I almost feel like Chris Jones has now removed himself from having it even be possible to be the biggest disappointment, because he can only be a surprise at this point. That's how bad it's been here the last couple of years with him. I mean, I think that's wild. All right, let's talk about the record that everybody had here. I had 13-4. That was miserably wrong. Sam had 12-5. Jeff, you nailed it. 11-6, at least amongst us.
Yeah, that's right.
You nailed it.
Yeah, you got the numbers right, just the wrong sequence.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But you were right as far as it being a regression year. I mean, it was definitely that. I mean, I wouldn't be doing too much bragging, but you definitely win on that question. Any thought about it, like why you didn't go worse? Or
I just look. I thought that they were about what they were 2 years ago. I think the 15-2 was what it became, an outlier. I think when we look back on this 3 or 4 year stretch they've had, like there's 2 seasons, that where they were okay to good, and there was one season where they were exceptional. And that one season had a lot of good things happen for them, and so I think they've been 11-16 for 3 years. They just played up 1 year.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. You got any reaction to the records we had there, Sam?
No, I mean, look, in the end, I think it felt like regression by not picking this team to the Super Bowl. Like, that's how good they've been. I think a lot of this is the bar that they've set. But at some point, and we've said this frequently, like at some point it's not all going to work out. I didn't think it would look this bad when it didn't all work out. Like, I think we all thought when Jeff made that prediction, and when was it, August, maybe we did this, that he was picking regression. And he was. And I think that's what we thought kind of the floor seemed like when you have Patrick Mahomes and you've got the consistency they were bringing back on defense. To me, that's what the floor was not winning a playoff game or taking second your division, not winning the division for once. And but just stunned by how I think when you follow on a week-to-week basis, it doesn't surprise you to the extent it does when you actually will take a step back and say, Patrick Mahomes went 6-8 last year. That's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it was rough. And you know how rough it was? Some people still don't want to admit that this team has issues.
Yeah.
That's how rough last season was for people.
And it's still hard to find a comp in recent history to that kind of drop off from a team that has been that dominant to being that just not even mediocre, just being a bad football team. I can't and continuing to be a bad football team, right? I mean, we've seen teams fall off it and just go away, but I think they're just going to all of a sudden be great again. It's kind of a big jump now.
No, that is for sure something that we'll see. Maybe they'll bounce right back. The Ravens have had a couple of step backs and then jump right back to being the Ravens. I think that's what the Chiefs are hoping they're going to do here. Our playoff finishes, we're obviously all morons, no one dumber than me. Win the Super Bowl. Going to bounce back and win the Super Bowl. That was awful. That is one of the worst predictions I've ever made in my life.
Well, let's not act like that's like incredibly stupid. This team had been to 5 of the last 7 Super Bowls or 5 of the last 6 Super Bowls. Like, there's a reason that made sense.
I appreciate you saying that. And yes, but like we're paid to analyze the team, and there were problems with the team that I clearly didn't see. Like I said, we all overshot it. You had them losing in the AFC Championship game, which is, 2 steps behind me. That's better. And then to Jeff's credit, he had them losing in the divisional round, right? It wasn't like 11-6 because it's a tough schedule, but boy, they're battle tested and they'll be a bitch in the playoffs. He had them losing in the divisional round. So again, Jeff takes the cake there. Nobody did it better there, and we all missed by a boatload. I think that's pretty easy to see on that one. No way to put lipstick on that pig. All right, we want to come back and give you our bold and daring predictions. We broke it down into offense and defense. We will do that right after you hear from our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Concrete season is in full swing, and asphalt paving is revving up. So right now is the time to get your property on the schedule with Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Whether you need new concrete work, a parking lot repaved, crack filling, seal coating, or full asphalt installation, their experienced crews handle it all right here in Kansas City. Don't wait until the rush hits. Call today for a free bid and secure your spot before the calendar fills up. Get the process started right now at GannAsphalt.com. That's GannAsphalt.com. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lots. Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait, get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222, or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. All right, let's get to some bold and daring predictions. We'll start with the offensive side of the ball. Jeff, you're number one.
I actually got this one right, that Kareem Hunt would lead the team in touchdowns. And I didn't feel confident about it. It seemed outlandish. And that it happened, it probably speaks to how bad the offense was. But he led the team in touchdowns, so I got it right. So I'll take my win. It makes my Robert Tonyan pick feel a little less painful.
Yeah, as it should. I think that was it was bold because Kareem Hunt's getting older, and we're expecting these wide receivers to be better than they certainly ended up being. So I do like what you got done. Kareem Hunt did lead the Chiefs with 9 touchdowns, and so credit where credit's due. Sam, what'd you open with?
I had Rashee Rice leading the Chiefs in receiving this year, which I was not high on Xavier Worthy going into the year. I thought it was as much commentary on what else they had as it was Rashee Rice's impact. And so, I guess I was right about that half and just well off on the one thing with Rashee Rice is that I think that and Jeff, I was going to say we forgot. Jeff mentioned this frequently. It wasn't just that he was suspended 6 games. It was that he's working his way back from a really serious injury. And he's been injury prone now the last 2 years. It's not just the self-inflicted woes of being suspended, but he's been injury prone the last 2 years too. And he didn't play in the final 3 games either. Looking this up, and this is not at all an attempt because it's gonna sound like one to try and say this was right. Did you know that Rashee Rice was only 16 yards shy of leading the wide receiver room in yards this year? Like, that's how bad their wide receiver production was this year.
Yes, because he was 3rd on the team in receiving yards. Kelsey 851, Brown
Hollywood,
587, and then Rice 571. Yes, I mean that is brutal.
He had double the yards per game of any other wide receiver.
And did 180 come in one game? I feel like there was. What was the game that they won? He had a huge game down the stretch.
Down the stretch, he had a lot in that overtime game against the Colts.
Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of.
But
it was
180.
Was it 180 in that game? Yeah.
I mean, he had 42, 93, 80, 38, 141 was that game.
Okay.
92, 34, 51.
So a quarter of his yards came in one game.
Yeah.
Well, he only played 8.
Yeah.
I mean, he only played 8 games.
All right. I like to take this swing. I've done it a couple of years in a row. I think I may have finally I may be cured of it for next year. Patrick Mahomes throws for 5,000 plus yards and 40 plus touchdowns.
Yeah.
Out the gate.
You can retire that one for sure.
I will say this, had he played the last 3 games, he wouldn't have gotten there, but I might not have looked as dumb as I do. 35, 87, and 22. He missed by a mile. And it's not even where the numbers were. It's just that, there was no chance in hell that this offense was going to allow any quarterback to have a big year. I mean, it was a complete misread on the offense. Thinking that they were going to take some step forward, just ridiculous. Ridiculous decision-making on my part.
Well, he hasn't cracked 30 touchdowns since 22, right? Am I right about that?
Ooh, let me look.
Yep, he's had the last 3 years has been 22, 26, and 27.
But that's reality. They need to reset the offense and get back up there. I think there'll be a second wave of big numbers at some point for Patrick Mahomes, but maybe not. I mean, listen, I'll give you a couple. Dan Marino, we know, never really got it back going to the way he did early in his career. Still a good quarterback, still a franchise guy, still a Hall of Famer, but he never ended up putting up those miracle numbers like the way Peyton Manning and Tom Brady did late in their career. They had a second wave of incredible statistics. Drew Brees, And I'll tell you, Donovan McNabb was done at like 32. Like he had one more good year at 32, and then got old at 33. And that's, is that because he couldn't escape anymore and buy extra time? I don't know. I mean, I think there is some question now with Patrick Mahomes and where he goes from here. All right, let's go to our second bold and daring pick in the offense. Jeff, where'd you go?
Didn't do as well as I did with Kareem Hunt. Mike Caliendo was going to play 8 games at left guard. I think he played. What did he play? He played for Trey Smith, 3-4 games?
Started 4. I think, it starts 8+ games at left guard.
So
he started 4.
But your rationale for that was probably Kingsley Suamati.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It goes into Soren's surprise player killed me. Yeah, so but he got into 4 games. But it was a bad idea, and it didn't get better after him either.
No, but it wasn't trash. I'll give you that. Yeah. I mean, there was a reason to have it. I'll go that far. All right, Sam, next for you.
I think Patrick Mahomes would get back to like his good sack rate again, and his sack rate instead went up this year. And my rationale was I thought they had a better offensive line plan than they had the year before. Their offensive line was better, but there's a second thing that has to come into play. Somebody's got to get open, and they could not get open against man coverage. Like his time to throw this year was a lot higher than it was a year ago, but it wasn't the product of just the fact that the offensive line was protecting better. It was the fact that he needed more time to try and find somebody open in the offense. And part of that is not having a running game, but part of that is like they didn't have guys who could beat man this year. So that wound up in him getting sacked just every bit as much as he did the year before.
Yeah. Sumer Sports had him 16th. You had him getting into the top 5. They had him 16th in sack rate last year. So no, it did not work. Even this is with the second most expensive offensive line in football. Obviously there were problems with the scheme. There were problems with the receivers. There were problems at times with the offensive line, which is not good when you get that kind of investment. All right, I predicted that the Chiefs would rush for 2,000 yards for the first time since 2015. They were
betting on the run game.
I know they were on pace for this for a while, largely off the legs of Patrick Mahomes and the early rushing yards he was piling up. But I think they got well past the midway point and they were still on pace, but it died a slow, painful death later. They really could have used it to try to stem the tide when Mahomes did go down, but they had 1,812, so they didn't even sniff it. But I'll tell you this right now, for Kenneth Walker, Eric Bieniemy as the offensive coordinator, like they have to rush for 2,000 yards this year. They have to.
Yeah, especially when you consider how bad they were and the fact that they still got to 1,800 and that number was higher than the 2 previous years.
Yeah,
under Patrick Mahomes. I don't think. I mean, they've been in that 19+ range a couple times, but they've never rushed for 2,000 with Mahomes at quarterback.
No, you got to go back to 2015. I mean, that's insane. I mean, like they should.
They didn't even do it with Kareem Hunt when he led the league.
No,
I thought he was like 1,700 that year, wasn't he?
I don't think he was. I don't think
he was.
He was like 1,300. I think
he was 14. Yeah. I think he was like 1,480 or something.
But there is, Soren mentioned it. I mean, there is a little bit of a trick to this, which is Mahomes rushed for a career high. So, the running back room definitely took a step back this year in the amount it rushed for. I mean, Mahomes rushed for 422 this year. That's 115 more than the year before. You mentioned that 2018 year, Jeff. I mean, he's got 150 more than that year, and that stuff really adds up and takes away from the bigger picture when you look at this and the fact that the running backs just did nothing for him.
Yeah, there is a trick to it, but they need to. They have to be better. 700. I think they upped the Eric Bieniemy and the Bears, and let's start with Johnson, the head coach, up the rushing attack by like 700 yards in Chicago. So I think there's an expectation that could happen here as well, that you could have that kind of jump. So I'm hoping I'm a year early. If I go bold and daring, I need to go like 2,200 plus or something like that for it to be bold this next time around. All right. Your next one, Jeff, number 3 on the list for your bold and daring picks on the offensive side.
I stuck with the tight end theme, and it killed me again. I thought Noah Gray was going to supplant Travis Kelce in terms of touchdowns. Didn't work out very well for me.
Kelce had 5, Noah Gray, none.
Zero.
None.
Yeah.
But
he did surpass Robert Tonyan in yards, though. He did. I think he hit at least 2 yards. I'm pretty sure of that.
I will say this: the thing I've learned from Jeff's picks is spread things around. Don't put it all.
That's right.
Don't build the foundation and then make every one of your picks stacked up on top of it. Spread it out. Spread it out amongst some different themes here. That's the one thing I'm going to take away from this from Jeff's. All right, your third bold and daring prediction, Sam.
Yeah, I had the Chiefs being a top 5 red zone offense under Rashee Rice. The reason I put that, if you recall, is because they were so bad at it the year before. They weren't even inside the top 20. I was really trying to look this up, like go game by game, because it was I could find that their total picture did improve from a year ago. In the last 3 games, they were only 20% in red zone success. So, when I did the math on it, when you take out those first 6 weeks, I think they probably would have been around that like 8 range. And I had them in the top 5. But I thought this would be their best path to scoring more points this year, was just being more efficient in the red zone. And they were more efficient in the red zone. And I actually, like, when we went back on this and I looked up the numbers today, I thought, wow, I don't think it's a great thing they were better in the red zone and still couldn't score at the rate that they were accustomed to scoring.
Yeah. Look, the bold and daring need to be the offense will just blow, right?
Is that bold and daring?
Yeah.
Well, it would have been before the
going
season.
into this season.
Yeah.
Don't you agree?
Yeah.
My third one was Travis Kelce tops 1,000 yards. Not bad. I mean, he had 851.
No, that's pretty good.
It was all right. He was definitely better, but he didn't sniff 1,000. I mean, so the offense as a whole, like we said, it sucked and it continued to suck, and there was no making it better. Like all offensive bold and darings went down the toilet, except for Jeff having the fact that Kareem Hunt would lead the team in touchdowns. That's the only one that came home. All right, let's get to the defensive bold and daring predictions. We'll do it right after you hear from our friends. Our friends at Italian Delight. Why not, Renee? Italian Delight was the first restaurant to bring true New York-style pizza to Kansas City almost 50 years ago. They sell whole pies or pizza by the slice, or enjoy their classic strombolis, calzones, and sausage rolls. Sandwich lovers, check out their lineup of hot and cold subs, the combo, the meatball, or the Philly cheesesteak, just to name a few. And don't forget the pasta. Their famous lasagna and classic chicken Alfredo always hit the spot. If you're hungry for lunch, check out their daily lunch specials, starting at under $10. Italian Delight can even cater your next work function or party. Dine in, carry out, or delivery, it's Italian Delight. Located just 3 minutes east of Kansas Speedway at 8145 State Ave in KCK. Check out the menu and order online at ItalianDelightKS.com. Kansas City's own Italian Delight. Gann Asphalt and Concrete is looking to grow their team. If you have heavy construction foreman experience with heavy equipment, asphalt or concrete labor, or just want to learn a new trade, contact Gann Asphalt and Concrete to join their team today. Top of the market pay, company provided insurance, and paid time off and holiday pay are just a few of the great reasons to join Gann's expanding team. Learn more about this great opportunity with Gann at GannAsphalt.com/careers. That's GannAsphalt.com/careers. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lots. All right, let's get to our bold and daring predictions on the defensive side of the ball, gentlemen. Jeff, why don't you lead us off? Where'd you start with?
I thought Nick Bolton was going to make his first Pro Bowl and become the face of the defense, and he did neither. So it was he was okay. I mean, he was good. Yeah, Nick Bolton-esque, but he did not make this huge leap in development.
He didn't back up the bus, but he didn't take the next step either. So yeah. I wonder how much the Chiefs' crappy record. I think if they'd gone 14-3 again, he'd have been there, right? Like, I don't think he was bad. I just think, like, okay, you guys suck now. Now you don't get all the benefit of the doubts. Right, but I think he could have been there. Sam, where'd you lead?
I had the defense overall taking a step back and finishing outside the top 10 in yards allowed. And Have you guys noticed Football Reference doesn't have this year's numbers on there? But I think they were exactly 10th. So I think I just narrowly missed that one.
You were close, yeah.
I feel like the foundation of that was strong. I thought that the defensive line was a worry. And I also thought that the secondary was a bigger worry than what it wound up being. I mean, Jalen Watson had a terrific year to, nail down the cornerback 2 spot. I saw a lot of Shamari Connor playing in training camp, and I thought that's the way they were going to go rather than moving Trent McDuffie in the slot, which is the way they went for the first month of the season before bailing on that idea, to Steve Spagnuolo's credit. And I think he should get a lot of credit for the fact that their defensive line did not win, and they still finished 10th in yards allowed, that the entire thing didn't just blow up because they weren't getting pressure.
I think if they'd not been hurt on offense, you probably would have gotten there. But, the fact that they were doing nothing on offense at the end meant that the teams didn't even have to try to push the ball.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think that's a pretty solid one. I think you're pretty close. All right, I had Jeffrey Bossa takes Drew Tranquil's spot in the defense. He had 39 snaps the entire year on defense.
Not even when they were out of it.
I mean, did not get on the field. Like, I think he's going to play now that Leo Chenal's in Washington. So he better play.
Maybe it's Cooper McDonald. We'll see.
I mean, listen, they didn't take a running back in the 5th round, and there were a couple of more running backs they could have had a shot at in the 5th round that maybe would have made that rushing attack better. And, the kind of the vibe they put out there was they didn't take the running back because they had this linebacker that they just had ranked so much higher than the draft spot. And then he played 39 snaps on defense. 39. And listen, they had good linebackers.
Yeah.
So I just thought we'd start seeing a changing of the guard with Drew Tranquil. It did not happen at all. That was dead wrong. So there you go. Jeff, your second defensive bold and daring prediction.
Yeah, I had Trent McDuffie setting a career high interceptions, and it just didn't feel so bold because his career high before was 2, and he got 1. So it ended up being a bad pick there as well. I mean, I think
wait a minute. So it's neither bold and inaccurate.
That's right. That's right. I thought it was worth a shot given the numbers. It was a very low bar to get over, and he couldn't get over it. So maybe someday he'll get 3, but right now I will never. I don't have to bet on him anymore because he's gone, but I will never make that mistake again.
How about Jeff admits not very bold and wrong?
Yeah.
Safe and wrong predictions. That's what we'll call them next year. All right, number 2 for you, Sam.
Yeah, I'll skip over. I'll go to 3 because Jeff and I are kind of on the opposite side of one of these. I had the Chiefs winning the AFC West by 3 games, and man, that's
the note I put was
that's a bad one.
No,
I didn't even see you had notes on this. No, that's a bad. And look, I actually missed that 2 ways. I didn't just miss on the Chiefs because if you notice, that wasn't because I had the Chiefs at like 15-2 again.
Yeah,
I mean, I only had the Chiefs at 12-5. I say only, and they won half of that amount. But I just didn't think I thought the Broncos would take a step back. I still think they weren't as good as their record by quite a bit. I think they are a little bit of mirroring what the Chiefs were the year before. The Chargers were the team I think I was most wrong about. Even though the Broncos record was there, like the Chargers deserved to be there. They lost their tackles and they were still there. I think I was more wrong about them actually than I was the Broncos.
Yeah, I think that's a great point because the Chargers did overcome a lot to still be with it, still prove you wrong. They had a long way to go, and they had a lot of help as it turns out. All right, my second defensive folly was the Chiefs' return to the top 5 in sacks. You're not blocking pitches, man. They're coming after you. Like, chance you're going to block these guys. Turns out that they were 22nd in the league with 35 sacks. They would have needed 49 to get into the top 5. So they were 14 sacks away from being top 5. So basically almost won a game away from being in the top 5. They pass rush. I was so right about this that everyone agrees their number 1 need coming into the offseason was an edge rusher. And they're
you were only so Chris Jones led him in sacks. You're only 2 more Chris Joneses away from hitting that one.
And they were like, in 23, they had 57 sacks, right? Or something like that. They almost had 60.
Yeah. I don't remember the exact number, but yeah, it was high 50s.
Yeah, I was like, oh, yeah, this is it. Last year was the anomaly. No, it wasn't.
No.
Oh, it wasn't. It was not the anomaly. All right, your third bold and daring prediction. Jeff, tell me what we have.
Well, I was feeling pretty good about this one halfway through the year because I think he was trending that direction. It was Chris Jones was going to have a career low in sacks. And he ended up where he ended up. He ended up with what? 7, which was fourth lowest of his career, right?
Yeah, triple his career low.
Yeah. But to be
he didn't do his homework on this ahead of time. It's his fault. He missed that rookie year where he had 2 sacks.
Two in like 7 games or something like that. Yeah.
Look at Sam not letting him off the hook.
Yeah.
Well, you'll see because I want to say that my last prediction is that he would double last year, and I just want to say he was closer to doubling.
Was he?
Than he was.
I knew because that was actually
career low.
That was the one that was number 1 on your list, and you went to number 2, and I'm like, I'm not sure why he's doing it, and now I see why.
When it tails the one that's so wrong, it's more right. It's less wrong than Jeff's pick was.
Let's see how you positioned it. Let's see where I can, it's like you're playing Pie Gal poker here. All right, I got no hope of winning this one, so just throw my cards in my little crappy 2-card hand and see if I can get out with a push. I like it. I like the strategy there. All right, very good. All right, and I said Dave Merritt gets a defensive coordinator job, to which I again listed as my note was no, like it didn't.
Well, actually, this is the second or third time I feel like I'm going to give you half credit. There's few position coaches in the NFL that I think had a better year than he did. Like the resume has been there, and he didn't do anything to hurt his resume. I mean, Jalen, look at the guys who got paid. I mean, his secondary alone made over $200 million this year, all homegrown guys. And look, I mean, the front office deserves a ton of credit for that too, probably the most credit. But Spags and Dave Merritt do too. I'm just stunned that somebody, especially this year, and said, okay, we want to pay Brian Cook $40 million. We want to pay Trent McDuffie $130 million. We want to pay Jalen Watson $51 million. Like that's over $200 million in the secondary. Like those are the guys he's coaching. Yeah, seventh round pick, second round pick, first round pick, but like, well, there's some dudes making something out of nothing as far as draft capital.
I think we all agree Dave Merritt's a tremendous talent as a secondary coach, and so Steve Spagnuolo as far as standing watch on a secondary and designing schemes to make them look good. And Brett, let's give Brett Veach and his staff some credit. I don't want to take it, and the players themselves for making themselves better. There's plenty of credit to go around, but I appreciate the half credit there. I'll take it. But what are we missing about why he's not? Because I know early on he was talking about, well, he still had a kid in high school, so he didn't want all the demands that come with the defensive coordinator job, and I get that, and I probably take him at his word. But 2 years ago, he interviewed for the 49er defensive coordinator job, and so you could be like, well, he just wanted to get some experience interviewing. Okay. Or we're now just making excuses for why I haven't got one yet. Like I haven't got it, so let me act like I never wanted it, right? Like, hey, Susie's not going to go out with you. Yeah, I never wanted to go out with her. You asked her 5 times. Like I think you did. Like I think now you're just trying to cover your ass as to why you talked a big game about being able to date so and so, and they don't have any interest in you. I don't really think that's it, but I do think that there's an element like I don't get it. I don't understand why he's not a defensive coordinator right now.
I think part of it is that it speaks to just where the league's at. Some of this stuff. There's so many young coaches that got their own guys they came up with, and Dave Merritt's probably not running in those same circles. Sometimes you think about Andy Reid's coaching tree right now. Most of those guys have cycled out. I think if Matt Nagy got the job, I think Dave Merritt would be a DC somewhere. But I think without that happening, you're talking about a lot of. And I think if you're Dave Merritt, you don't want to go someplace, get a shot on a team that's gonna be firing a head coach in a couple of years, right? And so you're talking about having to be on a Shanahan staff, a McVay staff, Sirianni, LaFleur, like go down the list. Most of these guys are pretty young guys.
Well, I mean, if what he wants to do is be a defensive coordinator, he probably needs to sign on to one of those staffs.
Yeah, I thought that one of the things that might make sense for him this year was one of the defensive head coaches who is really the defensive coordinator, right? Robert Saleh, I thought, He's the real DC. Mike Borgonzi, former Chiefs assistant GM, is the GM. I thought that would make sense. They went with Gus Bradley instead, and that's the type of fit I thought he might get first, because look, there is a big difference in coaching the secondary versus calling plays and calling blitzes and designing blitzes. Like, there is a real difference there, but he's also been with someone who's been doing that for a long time.
Yeah, that's the other part too. I was going to say that his scheme is not what's in vogue right now. That Vic Fangio scheme is very much in vogue, and so you're seeing the Mike McDowells and the Giro Everos of Carolina, people like that who run that stuff. Jesse Minter, all these guys are getting jobs, and really there's a ton of defensive coaches out there, coordinators who can't be head coaches. It's just way more of those guys than there are offensive minded dudes who end up getting head coaching jobs.
Yeah, and they, to your point, Jeff, I mean, the league is going heavy zone with their secondary now, and he is a heavy press man. Yeah. Spags' system is heavy press man, and that's what he coaches. But they've also had tremendous success with it. I mean, he's developed players. Their numbers are what they are. I mean, one of the reasons my first prediction about the top 10 defense not finishing there is they'd never done that in franchise history 3 straight years in a row. It's the first time that they've ever done that. I'm just surprised that other teams have obviously noticed that they're paying their dudes. They're crediting the players. I'm a little surprised that it hasn't done anything for any of the coaches. I mean, look, Joe Cullen was someone who interviewed elsewhere at some point too, and it's just the Chiefs were not bad because the defense took a major step back.
Yeah, no, I just think I know, and I go back to what Jeff said about it's a major step up. Yes, but if you're going to be a DC, everyone has to make that step at some point.
Yeah,
everyone who gets their first DC job is taking a major step, and they had to have qualifications. And I don't know what about being around Steve Spagnuolo and the success, and then all the success he's had as position. And listen, and it's usually secondary coaches that are DCs, right? Yeah. That's usually where you come from. You don't usually come from the D line, right? It's the secondary where you've got to disguise. You understand disguising coverage and the responsibilities that come with it. That's the harder part. Is to handle the secondary part. So to me, he ought to get the jump. I hear what you're saying about age, but
yeah, and I don't make it sound like it's all ages. I just think that if you look at a lot of DCs out there, I'd probably guess half are probably ex-head coaches. I think of the Brian Floreses and the Vance Josephs and the Gus Bradley. There's probably a bunch of those guys. Robert Saleh was in that boat last year. There's probably a bunch of those guys out there. Yeah. Jonathan Gannon now is in that boat. They just keep going back to being DCs.
Yeah, that's a great point. That is, and then they cycle back up if they catch the right. Well, like Robert Saleh, he cycles right back into being a head coach.
Yep. So Raheem Morris.
Yeah, that's a great point. All right, so not a great year for the Chiefs, not a great year for us on our predictions and bold and daring. That's what it all comes down to. But you know what? You're supposed to be bold and daring, and we always put it out there, and we always review them. All right, we don't just sweep them under the rug. We break it down as to what happened, and I think we can all agree across the board we didn't do that bad. The Chiefs just screwed us.
That's right.
I thought we can agree on two things. That and Jeff and I did not take last place.
That's right.
I got last. My Kingsley Super.
I didn't hear too many wins down there. It was a long time ago.
You were high on this offense every way possible. Throwing it, running it. I mean, this offense was just gonna get back to being one of one.
That's right.
Yeah, I'll wear that. It was not pretty for me. Yeah, it was 39 snaps.
It wasn't pretty for any of us. This show is proof that we'll say when we're wrong, because we did a lot better the year before.
Yeah,
we did a lot better.
8,000 yards of total offense in Soren's imagination. Right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, at least you guys went out of your way to call me out for it, so I appreciate that. Yeah. As we did it. Look, we may have been a disaster, but Gann Asphalt and Concrete is Kansas City's best. You can support the Red, Gold, and Bold by supporting our great sponsors. One contractor, all things parking lot. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com. And if you're looking for a gig, you want to work for a great team, work with Gann Asphalt and Concrete. They're offering top of the market pay, company provided insurance, PTO, and many more benefits. Find it online at GannAsphalt.com/careers. Our friends at Italian Delight, first restaurant to bring true New York style pizza to Kansas City almost 50 years ago, and home of the daily lunch special starting at under $10 right there at 8145 State Avenue. Online at ItalianDelightKS.com. And of course, Northland Injury Law if you've been hurt in an accident or at work. They were voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers. If you've got a case, text HURT to 22222 or call 816-400-HURT. For Jeff Chadiha, for Sam McDowell, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here